Find out my boyfriend has a freaking wife. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. I repeat, this is not my story time. Send me on Instagram. I met my boyfriend at the gym. Yeah, I know. Terrible idea. You can say it was lust at first sight. From the moment we saw each other at the gym, we couldn't take our eyes off each other. He came straight up to me at the gym and told me that he really liked me. But I was super shy. He was just some random guy I was meeting at the gym. But he was all about me. He asked me for my number and I said no. He asked me for my Instagram and I said no. For the next 2 weeks, he would come into the gym at exactly the same time I did. I would basically go work out whenever I had my lunch break. So of course, he would show up then. Of course, slowly but surely, he would charm me. He would even bring me lunch. After about 2 weeks, I finally gave him my phone number. That's when he asked me to go have breakfast, which I thought was weird. Should have been the first red flag, right? This was his excuse. He said he worked nights, but that his schedule would change all the time. So this meant that he would sometimes work during the day or at night. It was just random. So we went to breakfast. Here's the second red flag. He asked me if we could have breakfast 40 minutes away from where we lived. We both lived near the gym. Of course, I thought this was strange, but I said sure. He picked me up and the whole time at breakfast, he kept looking at his phone. Part 2 is up. I just found out my boyfriend has a freaking wife. Disclaimer, is not my story time. Send me on Instagram. For our first date, we went to have breakfast 40 minutes away from where we both lived. Again, this was another red flag I ignored. During the breakfast, he was on his phone the entire time, and I called him out on it. I asked him why he invited me to breakfast if he was going to be on his phone all day. That's when he made up this whole sob story about how hard his work life was, how he was always stuck to his phone answering emails and text messages from his boss. And of course I believed it. I mean, I didn't know this guy from anything. After that, he put his phone down and I realized he was the most amazing man I had ever met. A man that can make me laugh is really important to me. And we laughed the entire time. We were telling each other jokes. We talked about family and values. We talked about our favorite foods, countries we wanted to go to, places we had been to. It was the perfect date. We even loved the same type of music, and our favorite movie was the same. So as you can imagine, I completely fell head over heels for this man. But the red flags continued. A week after our first date, he asked me to be his girlfriend. Did I say yes? Of course I did. But this was just another red flag. He began love bombing me and always wanted to be with me. But he never invited me over to his place. Part 3 is up. I just found out my boyfriend has a freaking wife. Disclaimer, is now my story time. Send me on Instagram. Every time I'd ask to go over to his place, he would say no. First off, he told me that he had a terrible roommate, that his roommate was noisy and really dirty and the apartment stank. So for that reason, he didn't want me to come over. And of course, I said, yeah, that's fine. Here's the 4th red flag that I ignored. He would ask to come over to my apartment at odd hours. Sometimes he wanted to come over at 3 in the morning. Sometimes he wanted to come over super early. And other times he wanted to come over really late. Because I have a 9-to-5 job, I kept saying no. I needed to get my beauty sleep, please. But even if I said no, he would still come over. Here's the 5th red flag. He would come over to my apartment and instantly fall asleep on the couch. I was always asking him why he was so tired, and he would just say that it was too much work. Well, we've been dating now for 2 months. A few days ago, I started getting suspicious of the situation, so I showed up to his apartment, but he didn't live there. It was an office building. I asked him to come over and I confronted him. That's when he confessed that he is married, and that he's been married for 10 years, but he says that his wife is a nightmare and that he wants to divorce her. What should I do?
Storytime about how my crazy-ass cousin broke up my family. So a little background information, my cousin Brandy has been married to her wife for about 16 years. And they both have 3 kids together, and I live with my brother and sister-in-law, Nora. Both of our families were super close. They were always coming over to our house, vice versa. Now, this is where you gotta keep up. My cousin Brandy started cheating on her wife with Nora's sister, Taylor. And that meant that Taylor was cheating on her boyfriend, and they had 3 kids together also. And this all started happening the night of my nephew's birthday party. They literally did the nasty that day and then showed up at different times to play it off, like they weren't doing anything. And nobody really found out about any of this until Thanksgiving of last year, but the drama is still going on till this day, and it only gets worse. My cousin Brandy convinced Taylor to break it off with her boyfriend and completely leave her 3 children for her. Meanwhile, Brandy is still with her wife. Like for part 2. Part 2 about how my crazy-ass cousin broke up my family. So like I said, my cousin Brandy talked Taylor into leaving her boyfriend and her 3 kids for her. Meanwhile, Brandy didn't even leave her wife, and she was planning on buying a house and adopting 2 out of the 3 kids that they have. But Taylor was low-key manipulated and low-key ignored every single red flag. So she did just that. She literally broke up her family for Brandy. And to this day, Brandy is still with her wife. And you would have thought that Taylor would have been like, okay, fuck this. But no, actually, instead, Taylor and Brandy decided that they were going to say that Taylor's boyfriend beat them both so he could get sent to jail and they could still do the nasty on the low. And then Brandy twisted the whole situation of what actually went on to make my family cut me, my brother, and my sister-in-law all off, so that way she didn't seem like the bad guy. And now I'm not allowed to see Brandy's daughter, who I'm really close with. Like, she literally will track her location, and if she's even near my house, she'll be grounded.
When I was a child, my parents would make me sandwiches because I was too small to make them myself. And they would always ask me, do you want a half a sandwich or a whole sandwich? And in my head, I knew that I wanted the bigger of the two sandwiches. But nobody had taught me what a half or whole sandwich was. And my vocabulary was very limited, okay? I was a very small person. And I knew I wanted the big sandwich, but I didn't know how to ask for it. I didn't know the difference between half and a whole. And so I would always guess. And a lot of the times I would end up with half a sandwich, and I would be devastated and in tears and like just so upset and so angry and frustrated because I knew what I wanted and I didn't know how to communicate my needs. But from my parents' side of things, they thought that I was communicating my needs. And so just like, I don't have children, but I was one. And I just feel like it's important to remember that when they're having meltdowns over nothing, it's probably not nothing. It's a language barrier at this point, right?
Today I messed up by expecting my family to pay for my birthday dinner. Yesterday I turned 18 years old. For the past 6 years, like clockwork, every day on my birthday, we go to the same place for dinner and I'd always get the same thing. For those who are a bit confused, I have extreme OCD and high functioning autism, which means I'm very well regulated and like things to stay the same way that they've always been. Anyway, back to the story. Every year on my birthday, we go to Applebee's. The first thing I would get is steak and shrimp parmesan with a side of loaded mashed potatoes and cheesy steamed broccoli. Hate me or not, with a side of mozzarella sticks. In total, it's around $30. A bit expensive, I know. I really couldn't tell that something was off until a bit later, because when me, my mother, my stepfather, and my older brother sat down, they really didn't say anything. I was confused at first and started tapping my fingers on one another like I always do. The conversation went a bit like this. My mother said, "Well?" I was rather confused. "Well?" My mother said, "Aren't you going to call a waiter over?" This gave me extreme anxiety. I have extreme issues with speaking to people and I tend to stutter and I get very, very scared, if that's the right word. I asked her if she could do it and she does it in a huff. My dad and brother are staring nonchalantly. As she calls the waiter over, the alarm bells are ringing in my head. This is never how it went before. As the waiter gets to the table, he asks everyone what they want and everyone orders. As he gets to me, my mother stops him and tells him, "Separate bill." This is when my heart began beating very fast. I don't know a job. All the money I get is from our neighbors raking leaves. I just kind of freeze. I don't really say anything and I get really bad stomachache from the anxiety. This is where I'm conflicted on whether I'm an asshole or not. My mother would explain at the table that now that I'm 18, I should be able to pay for my own things. I was already feeling nauseous from the situation, so I said that I don't have the money. My mom kind of huffs and shoos the waiter away. This soured the dinner party. However, my mom also paid for my 23-year-old brother. My family was calling me an entitled little a-hole the whole ride home. When I got home, I just ran to my room and cried. They've been ignoring me the whole day. I may be bad at social cues, but my family has never acted like this before. I mean never. They've been treating me horrible the whole day. I feel very angry and upset. If I would have been warned, I would have saved my raking money. I'm just very confused and I'm terrible with social cues. My family gets a little tight on money. I guess I really should have asked before I assumed that they were going to pay it for me. But I missed out on my birthday dinner because I wasn't mature enough to bring my own money. I'm just going to rake leaves for a couple weeks to order it from takeout.
Am I the asshole for leaving a fake positive pregnancy test in the bedroom to catch my husband's mom snooping? My mother-in-law moved in with us a month ago and I began to notice my stuff in the bedroom being touched. Furniture rearranged, stuff moved, all that. I thought I was going crazy because my husband is the only one who has access to the bedroom and he doesn't touch things. My things anyway. I figured it must be his mom walking in and snooping on my personal things. I told my husband and he said that his mom would never, but I had a huge hunch. I couldn't install a cam in the bedroom to catch her in the act, so I got a fake pregnancy test and threw it in the bedroom's trash. Mind you, the trash can was placed in the corner near the closet. And literally the next day, I got tons of calls. Am I the asshole for leaving a fake positive pregnancy test in the bedroom to catch my husband's mom snooping? Literally the next day after I got to work, I got tons of calls and texts from my in-laws saying congratulations for my pregnancy. My husband came to my workplace and was all worked up about it, asking since when was I pregnant and why didn't I tell him. I asked how he found out and he said his mom found the test in the trash can in the bedroom. I then asked if his answer just confirmed that she's been snooping in the bedroom all along. He had a realization moment but demanded we stick to the bigger issue. I said the test was fake and this was the real test. He had me take a real test in front of him and said that I broke his mom's heart because she longs for kids. The family's calling me a liar and a manipulator.
Am I the asshole for refusing to invite my dad's sugar baby to my wedding? My parents split up when I was 4 because my mom was having an affair with my dad's brother. After that, my dad went back to college and got another degree. Now he's working a very good job that he got through a friend and is very wealthy. My relationship with my parents was very strained as my mom didn't let me see my dad until I was a teen. Recently, my dad has started having a girlfriend who we call Sarah, 24 female. She's obviously a sugar baby. She has no job and my dad pays for everything. She's always bragging about everything my dad buys her, and all of her friends live a similar lifestyle. And the fact that he's dating a woman that's a year older than me makes me cringe to the core. I'm getting married to my partner, 24 male, next summer, and I decided that I don't want Sarah at my wedding. She's not his girlfriend or partner, she's his sugar baby. My dad obviously didn't take it well and said that Sarah is just as part of the family as my mom's new husband. Also that I can't decide which relationships are acceptable and which aren't. He said that I'm being self-righteous and continued to deny that Sarah is a sugar baby. He then accused me of trying to manipulate him and said I have mom to thank for the fact that they aren't together. My future mother-in-law and father-in-law even got involved and said if Sarah comes to the wedding, they won't be going, as they think my dad's relationship is disgusting.